This year was weird. And I say that because I had some unplanned and planned breaks throughout the year of 2024, which kind of makes me a little sad because there's a lot of games that I want to play that I have in my library that I keep buying games and getting requests to play demos, and I just haven't been able to play them or stream them, which makes me kind of sad. But hopefully I'll be back fully in January. TLDR for those who haven't been following along, really, my PC is kind of hating streaming newer games, so my friends and I have kind of determined that there's an issue with the CPU/motherboard, so we're getting some upgrades. Hopefully by the new year I'll be back to streaming my usual 3-day-a-week schedule. So because I'm kind of missing out on some of the streaming aspects of things, I wanted to take a moment to kind of go through some of the games I played in 2024 and which were my top 10. And before we dive into it, if you do see a cat wandering in the background, he's a menace to society. He's just staying here for a couple of days, but he is a menace. And if he demands for the shades to be open, the shades will be open. So yes, top 10 games of 2024 that I have played at least, because there's certainly games that did come out that I certainly wanted to play, looking at you, Astrobot, but I can't, or just doesn't strike my interest, much like Black Myth Wukong, just wasn't my vibe, wasn't my interest. But there's a lot of games that came out this year, so I kind of wanted to review those together, give you my top 10, and kind of look forward into 2025 to see what is upcoming and what games that I'm looking to definitely play on stream at some point, pending that my PC works as intended. So I wanted to give myself some ground rules of like what qualifies as a top 10 game of 2024. The first one is it has to be a game that I started playing in 2024. So it can't be a game that I bought in 2023, opened it, played like 2 minutes in 2023, put it away, and then reopened it in 2024, because that's what happened with Dead by Daylight. I bought the game in 2023, played a couple of hours on it, and then shelved it until this year. So Dead by Daylight is my honorable mention of this video. It's become my favorite game, I think, especially in the multiplayer platform. Also, a caveat with that is that it can be a game that came out before 2024, but I just started playing it in 2024 because our backlogs are very long and there's so many games that I personally need to catch up with. I mean, I played Mass Effect for the first time, I think starting at the tail end of 2023. And the other part of the criteria is that it cannot be a demo for a game. It has to be a fully released game. Whether or not I completed the game doesn't matter. So with our two pieces of criteria, here is my top 10 list of games I played in 2024. So coming in at number 10 is Dave the Diver. I streamed this game a couple of times. I don't remember when I streamed it. It came out in mid 2023, so it's been out as of recording this video for about a year and a half with a jungle DLC on the way, as announced, I think during the Game Awards or something like that. If you're unfamiliar, it is a casual single player adventure that features deep sea exploration during the day and then managing a sushi restaurant at night. It also has a nice mixture of mini games in between to kind of keep you on your toes with what you can do in the game at any time. Now, the reason why for me it made my list of top 10 games of 2024 is because that last piece that I mentioned, it has a lot of elements in this game. Originally, in the beginning, you start off just doing the deep sea diving and then the restaurant management. But then as you start playing the game, there's more and more things that you uncover that you can do in the game. For example, I think the most recent mechanic that I uncovered was farming. So you can farm your own rice. There's also a place where you can kind of keep and store fish. I think almost like breeding fish, if I recall correctly. It's been a hot minute since I've touched the game, but it has a lot of these like medium-sized elements that are important to gameplay, but they're not the main feature and selling point. And I think for those who may get bored very quickly of doing just very monotonous tasks, may find enjoyment in Dave the Diver because there's these other elements that get added slowly yet surely as you continue to play the game. It also has a very diverse and fascinating cast of characters, which I really like seeing their interactions with one another. I still need to finish the main story, but I really do love how unique the gameplay is, the style of it, and merging all of these almost different genres together to make what we know as Dave the Diver. I should also mention that this game was developed and published by Mint Rocket, and this was their debut game, so shout out to developers. We appreciate you very, very much. Coming in at number 9 on my list is Vampire Therapist, which came out this year on July 18th of 2024 from Little Bat Games, which is their debut game for this gaming studio. Essentially, this game is a visual novel where you play as a cowboy vampire who is learning how to be a therapist for other vampires. And the developer of the game really did take their time with making sure that the elements of therapy being showcased and demonstrated is accurate and actual portrayals of therapy that you may see in a therapy session with an actual clinician. And it has a really good disclaimer at the beginning: this is not a replacement for therapy. No game should ever be a replacement for therapy or any sort of medical advice. But if you're intrigued or interested in getting therapy at some point in your life, this may be a good starting point to see what you may be talking about in therapy with a licensed professional and begin to start working on yourself in some manner. Like, I've been in and out of therapy for the last 2.5 years, which therapy is a great choice. I encourage everyone to go to therapy at least once in their lifetime, but there are still things that I am learning as I'm playing Vampire Therapist about different thought patterns and how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive one another. And being able to share that with my stream and have my chatters talk about themselves and say, oh, I do this all of the time. It's also entirely voice acted with a incredible cast of people. Matt Mercer plays a couple of the characters as well. This is also a game I have not finished yet. It's definitely on my list to go back and finish, and also the developer has been pushing out free content updates to continue exploring the world of these vampires and their struggles of being vampires and all of that wonderful things. Number 8 on my list is Oxenfree, which is the oldest game I have played on my top 10 list. So this game came out about 9 years ago on January 14th of 2016 from Night School Studio. And at the time that this game released, it was their debut game. And it is a supernatural thriller story-based game about a group of friends who unwittingly open a ghostly rift. And the reason why Oxenfree is number 8 on my list, beyond the music just being insanely awesome to listen to, is that I really, really enjoyed the visual style of the game. So it's 2D-esque. It does have elements where you're kind of moving in 3D, but you're mainly moving in the 2D plane. The visuals of this space are just really, really interesting and unique. And what I also found interesting when I did my live playthrough is that we discovered that there's multiple endings to the game. So when I first played it, I didn't think that there was. I thought it was going to be a very linear story with one ending, but turns out, depending on how you interact with the other characters around you, can shape how the ending unfolds, which now I need to go back and get all the other endings and all of the collectible things that you can find in the game, but I really enjoyed it. I also really like the radio mechanic of Oxenfree, where you have to dial into the radio to get the ghosts to talk to you or to figure out information and to interact with things around the island to get more information about where you are. I think that's a really cool aspect of it and makes it unique for the game specifically. Next on my list is another indie game that came out this year in early 2024 called WitchHand, developed by John Nielsen and published by Hot Frog. Essentially, this is a tabletop card game, much like Inscription, but not as creepy of a vibe as Inscription. But you are a new witch leading a coven, and based on the cards that you are dealt, you can acquire new and very cute familiars, if I do say so myself, and also defend your coven from people who are trying to do you harm. It's just a really good game if you have almost like a gamer goblin brain syndrome where you want to collect all of the shiny things, because you can collect resources with different card types, and there's so many familiars and they're really, really cute depending on your path that you take as a witch, because there's different life paths almost, which basically determines what type of witch you are, varies what your familiars look like. So I chose the original one. Hi, bud. Hi. You hear me talking about familiars, huh? Are you my familiar? I don't know. Oh, you want to come up? Okay, he wants to come up on the desk. Do you want that open, sir? He wants it open. Hold on. Now my room is very bright, and I am very pale. I also find it very ironic that he decided to come and sit by me while I was talking about the game with cats. So yeah, WitchHand is a really fun game, very fun tabletop card game if you wanted to get into a card game but don't want something that's going to be very overwhelming or very large in scope, much like Inscription. But the music's really nice to listen to, the art style is really great and pleasing to the eye. He's a happy boy. Look at that tail swish.
2 seconds later.
The second I started talking about something that wasn't cats, he fled the scene of the crime. So we are back to not blazing outside my window. So number 6 on my list is Pacific Drive, which came out on February 22nd of 2024, developed by Ironwood Studios, which again was their debut game, published by Kepler Interactive. Essentially, you are someone who is exploring the Olympic exclusion zone and gets stuck within its bounds, and the only thing you have to save you and help you through this area is a car with potentially some sort of anomaly properties to it. I don't know, I didn't get that far. I will admit this game can be a tad overwhelming for people who are just starting for the first time. I know I found myself getting a bit panicked by how much was going on within the game and what you had to pay attention to, but I think that's kind of what adds to the charm of the game, especially when it comes to the world building aspect of it. One of my friends, who also streams on Twitch, was one of the people writing all of the little things that you'll see in forms of notes or item descriptions, and just reading all of it and seeing some of the humor that's went behind the written descriptions and how things were written and building out the lore of the world was really, really awesome to see, and it really brought a lot of life to the game. So even though physically you do not see another person, as far as I've gotten into the game, you do not see another person, you do hear people on the radio talking to you and guiding you through, but it did add some extra life to the game beyond just going from point A to point B in your main missions. I will also add to the fact that the gameplay is very unique. You drive a car and you have to drive it in first person, so you can't cheat like you can in Cyberpunk and put it into third person view or top down view. And it has a really compelling story of you somehow getting transported into this exclusion zone and now have to find a way out with the help of these people over the radio as you traverse deeper and deeper into the exclusion zone. And one of my other sticking points of why I put 6 on my list is it has amazing accessibility options. So if you're interested in the game, but you think some of the gameplay elements and the damage that the exclusion zone could do to you is a little bit scary, because if you're like me and like playing things safe and don't like much of the unknown, there are a crap ton of accessibility options that allow you to modify difficulty factors beyond just the difficulty itself. So if you wanted to play on a harder difficulty, but you don't want the storms to impact what you're doing, you can modify that. It allows for a lot of replayability in the sense that you can play this game a lot of times and change the modifiers to basically alter your experience. And it also comes pre-set with certain modifiers to give you a certain challenge if you're looking for something more guided in that aspect. Finally, we are getting to our top 5 of my favorite games that I played in 2024. Number 5 being The Casting of Frank Stone. This game came out on September 3rd, 2024, developed by Supermassive Games and published by Behavior Interactive. And whether you're a fan of Dead by Daylight or not, I personally think this game can be enjoyed by anyone so long as you enjoy a good branching narrative with a horror/spooky twist to the game. I personally really liked it just because, one, I love branching narrative games, but also because I'm very much interested in the lore of Dead by Daylight. So getting to see all those little Easter eggs from the original game in Casting of Frank Stone was really awesome, especially collecting all of the dolls of the different killers. Like, the Wraith doll is one of my favorites in design, even though seeing the Trickster doll was super, super special because Trickster's my favorite killer. I mean, I got this shirt for Christmas. Don't tell me I don't love him, okay? So seeing all those little Easter eggs was really, really fun, and getting to explore more of the lore of the Dead by Daylight world outside of DBD was really fun as well. And of course, I end up getting the worst ending in my first playthrough. Shout out to my chat who made me go back and change one choice to get a better ending. And to also find the Trickster doll. And I know a lot of people did have some mixed feelings about casting a Frank Stone, but I really do hope, regardless if we see another branching narrative or not, that we see more games like this to explore more of the DBD universe outside of the multiplayer version of the game. At number 4 on my list is a cute little game called Loddlenaut. This game was released on November 16th of 2023, developed by Moon Lagoon, which was their debut game, and published by Secret Mode. In this game, you play as this little underwater astronaut on this planet that this company was using to do a lot of research and general corporate greed things. And now you are the trash man here to collect the trash. And while doing that, you are revitalizing all of the different biomes within... Hi. Hi. And while you're cleaning up all the biomes, you're also revitalizing them and helping to bring back the Loddles, which are these very cute axolotl-like creatures that reside on this planet. And getting all of the different types of Loddles was my favorite achievement, I think, in this game. And they're absolutely adorable, and I love them so very much. If you're looking for a more chill game to play, I recommend Loddlenaut. Going around and cleaning up an ocean is actually quite soothing for some reason, but also making friends with all the little Loddles is also really fun and enjoyable, so I highly recommend it. That's why it's number 4 on my list. All right, number 3 on my list is a game I played very early on in 2024 called Jusant. It came out at the tail end of 2023 on October 31st, published and developed by Don't Nod. In essence, Jusant is a no storyline climbing game. There's no dialogue options available beyond your little water companion squeaking from time to time when you cuddle it. But beyond that, a lot of the storytelling is based on environmental clues and written notes that you see throughout your ascension to the top of this tower. I'll be honest, this game broke me a little bit. If you saw my live playthrough of it, I bawled at the end, but granted, most games make me cry at the end for some reason or another, but the music also lives completely rent-free in my brain. It's just such a well-crafted game. I wish I got more recognition for it. It's a bit on the shorter side. I wished it was a tad longer, just because like I want to live more in this world and understand more of what happened. And the story is more of interpretive in terms of what did happen to the people that were on this tower. But ultimately in the end, I found the mechanics to be really fun, to learn how to climb and to scale things, and also your little water companion is also really cute. Finally, we are at my top 2 games for 2024, and it was really hard to decide which one would be second and first place, but I'm gonna explain my logic in just a second. So in second place is Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2 came out at the tail end of last year as well on October 27th, 2023, developed by Remedy Entertainment and published by Epic Games Studio, whatever the fuck their thing is, so they can publish on Epic. This is the highly anticipated sequel for Alan Wake 1, which came out 14 years ago at this point, since we're in 2024 now. But you get to play as 2 characters, Alan Wake and Saga Anderson, both trying to explore in their own way how to disconnect from the dark presence and the dark place. Alan trying to get out of the dark place himself, while Saga is trying to figure out what is going on inside the town of Bright Falls and Cauldron Lake. The big reason why I did not put this as number 1 is because I was facing so many streaming issues with Alan Wake 2, and it got to the point where I got super frustrated with it, and I ended up taking a streaming hiatus at the beginning of 2024 because I just didn't know what to do at that point. But I eventually hopped back onto streaming it because I wanted to continue playing the story, also knowing that 2 DLCs at the time were on the way. And don't let this mean that any aspect of this game is bad. The graphics are amazing. The art style is phenomenal, especially in the New York City sections with the graffiti. Like, I would plaster the graffiti on my walls if I could. The soundtrack is stellar. The acting and the emotion and the actual story element of it is so, so good. I think for me, in comparison to my number one pick, it didn't have that immediate, I want to go back and replay this game right now factor. While as my number one did. Speaking of my number one game, it was Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered. This game released on August 12th, 2022, and this is when it actually came to Steam for the first time as well. I think the original was out prior to this remastered version, and it was developed by Insomniac Games and Nix's Software, and then published by PlayStation. So just in case if you're not familiar with Spider-Man, you play as Peter Parker, who is Spider-Man, a superhero who swings through the city as a spider with webs and stuff. He fights bad guys. It's really fun. I do have separate videos about my playthrough of Alan Wake 2 and Spider-Man in case you want to see more thoughts instead of just bite-sized bullets right now. But in essence, the reason why I put Marvel Spider-Man at number one is because I thoroughly enjoyed the gameplay aspect of it. It was super fun to swing around on webs. The combat was really, really engaging and not super intimidating. And also the writing for Peter Parker is just phenomenal. Both my number one and number two options, phenomenal games. I recommend them both regardless of their order. I recommend all these games regardless of their order, to be honest. But I would love to know what game that you played this year for the first time, whether it came out in 2024 or not, was your number one game that you played this year. Now, I did mention wanting to kind of look ahead into 2025 to not only see what games are coming out in 2025, but also games that I have that are deep in my backlog that I do want to play in 2025, hopefully, theoretically. So these are a couple of the games that I am personally looking forward to when they release in 2025. We'll have Citizen Sleeper that's coming out at the tail end of January, which is a sequel to the first game, which I adored and loved. So I'm super excited to play it. I played the demo a little bit if you want to check that out. Then I also found out in my research for doing this video that Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is coming to PC also at the tail end of January. I'm super excited. Oh, I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped. I cannot wait to get back into this world once more. And also a couple of other games that are coming out in 2025 include Lost Records Bloom and Rage, which is going to be kind of like a Life is Strange-esque game, and I love Life is Strange. Even if Life is Strange Double Exposure is the reason why I had to get new parts for my computer, but alas, I digress. We also do have The Alters, which features Alex Jordan, who is the voice of Mr. Hands, among other characters. I love his acting, so I'm excited to see what he's going to be doing. And then finally, South of Midnight, which is going to be talking about Southern folklore, I believe, but features the music of Olivier de Riviere, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, who did the music for Vampire and the Plague Tale series. I love his music, so I'm very excited to see what he has come up with for South of Midnight. I thoroughly had a fun time ranking my top 10 favorite games and realizing that I did not play as many as I thought I did. Granted, I did play about 500 hours of Dead by Daylight this year since April, so that probably had something to do with it. But alas, I had a lot of fun playing games this year. I'm looking forward to 2025 and what it's going to bring. So feel free to let me know both what is your favorite game that you played in the year of our Lord 2024, and what game are you most looking forward to coming out in 2025. And with that, I will see you in the next video, whenever that will be. God knows at this point. My life's a mess, and January is in a week, and I'm sad about it. Keep gaming, and I will see you all real soon. My name is Aaron Gray, queer Twitch streamer, signing off.